not have a sales problem. What you have is a traffic problem or you have a conversion problem.
What are you afraid of around those two things?
We make sales every few minutes.
What would people coming in to coach me ask?
The success of your launch is determined by the success of your pre-launch.
You push the energy into the system and then the system works.
Was it successful? Yeah, but I created a business that I just didn't love.
This feels, dare I say, easy.
I don't know about you, but I don't give a about living a realistic life.
And you don't have to drive every single thing, every single day happening in your business.
The answer you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. Welcome back to the Boss Babe podcast. Lindsay, welcome. Your brand new home studio, sounding amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. You never know it's in a bathroom. Well, I guess you would because I put it on Instagram.
No. Okay, stop. So what, the word I want to use is possessed, but let's go with what inspired you to set up this podcast studio in the bathroom.
Well, I have this funky shaped house. It's like an old farmhouse that the people we bought it from added a very modern kind of angular house onto. And so the room that is my office is almost a triangle shape. And they put a bathroom in it. The best way to describe it is like open concept bathroom. It has half walls and is a weird triangular shape. And so it has this area that I'm sitting in, which was the closet that was totally non-functional. And this is a bathroom that it's like my office. I'm never going to take a shower in here. It's open concept. There's nothing else to do with this space, but it's fairly good size. And I was like, well, I could turn this into my like little cubby for the podcast and make it look a little bit better than sitting at my desk with all the stuff behind me. And it worked out super well. And actually the acoustics are great and the light's great. I'm just a fan of making it work. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what surprised me is that the acoustic, how did you make the acoustics like things not be echoey?
Well, so secrets, what you can't see right now is there's a ton of foam, acoustic foam that we bought from Amazon. This is a DIY at home podcast tip. I just bought a bunch of cheap acoustic foam and I just layered it over everything that's a hard surface in here. So there's a couple pieces on the floor, over like the bathroom sink, over the shower glass door, up above me on the wall that you can't see above me. And it really noticeably dampens any kind of echo. And then always just having a good quality mic is the secret, I think. But overall, like I actually owned a lot of this stuff from when I used to do Motherload, and I think you can start a podcast with pretty good equipment these days for not a lot of investment, and you can do it literally in any room of your house. I know people like Jenna Kutcher, she said she started hers in her closet. Like, I think you can make it work and it still sounds great, looks great.
Yeah, it sounds and looks amazing.
I like to be warm and I like to be in my own. Once I go to work, I want to stay in my office. Like, even though I work from home, I like to stay in my environment. Otherwise it's too easy to get distracted or start doing other things. And so if I was going to build a podcast area out in a separate area of the house, I'd worry that it's just too much opportunity for distraction or the kids to see me or something else. So this works perfectly.
Well, very impressive. I love it.
I sent Natalie a video over the weekend and I was like, look at what I did. She's like, okay, but it's in a bathroom.
Well, I love it. I think that we're upgrading podcast, which speaking of, we're going to just, before we dive into this week, we want to do a session all on marketing, social media, all of those tactical things. But what I thought would be fun to give you guys a bit of an update, just like what are we focused on at Boss Babe this year? What have we been working on? What's coming up? Because I feel like last year, we know was such a huge growth year for us. It was our biggest year ever in terms of revenue, profit, you name it, just across the board. And it's so funny because I was sharing this on the CEO Mama membership call. I actually didn't have childcare for 6 months of last year. And so thinking about how that works, I'm like, I don't fully know how that happened, but really proof that everything doesn't need to be perfect for you to be able to like really hit your goals and focus. I think it taught me so much. But this year, touch wood, my childcare situation is so solid and amazing. I'm so happy with that. But I don't feel like I'm in a huge growth year with the business. In fact, I feel like I'm in a real doubling down, focusing. We were just even on a call before this podcast where I got invited to Vegas to interview someone really exciting. And immediately I was like, oh no, I'm not doing that. I'm not traveling the way I did last year. Like that just feels like a no. Whereas last year was a yes year. It was like, yes, I'm traveled 19 times. Like I am going on all the trips. I'm saying yes to all the things. This year is not that. And what I feel really excited about is just doubling down on what's working, doubling down on the stuff that actually I enjoy doing, which is going to be podcast, YouTube, social, a lot of that. And I'm just in trust that, like, yeah, the revenue will come as a byproduct of that. And maybe we'll do a mid-year check-in to see if that actually is the case. But I want to do more of that, because last year I feel like we laid all the foundations, and I'm like, well, that's what a foundation laying year is for, so that you can then really double down on all the stuff that you absolutely love doing and play and test and like see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing, because I've heard you say this a couple times to our internal team now. Like, we had a really busy year last year. Like, we were all working really hard for most of the year, and it paid off in that now all of our programs that we sell are all like quote unquote done. This is not a year that we're building new programs, that we are adding a ton of new curriculum or revising curriculum. Like, we spent so much time last year on all of that. And now it feels like, hey, everything we spent so much time on is so good. We want to have a year where we do what we say, do what we teach, which is focus on one thing, or, you know, the things that we have in our product suite, not get distracted, you know, be consistent, apply all the skills and tools that we know and use, and really prove to ourselves that everything we teach works, which we know it does. And it's really a matter of being able to say no. And I think that's what I think I'm personally going to struggle with, because we get so many amazing opportunities, and you and I are such like growth-minded idea people. And it's so easy, you guys, and I hear it from everybody. It's so easy to see opportunity and want to go take it and go build the next course, go start the next membership, go launch a mastermind over a weekend because there's 2 or 3 people that you know would join. And it's so tempting to do those things. And for us, it's easy, you know, at this point to do those things because we have such an amazing team. And so it takes a lot of discipline to actually do what you just said, which is have a year where all the work you did last year just pays off for a year, and you can really refine and deepen everything that you're doing. I'm excited for it though. I think it's going to be great.
I know, it feels really good. So yeah, update for everyone this year so far, what's kind of we've been working on behind the scenes in the business. We haven't done any outward launches or anything this year so far, which is absolutely crazy considering we've been having like 6-figure weeks. What's so funny is, I mean, I don't think you might find this funny, but I'll just be really honest.
No.
Hadn't looked at the revenue until today. And then I went into the scorecard because we were on the podcast call. I wanted to know what the podcast metrics are. And then I thought, oh, well, I'm here. I'll look at how the revenue's been. And I'm scrolling down and I'm seeing like, oh, 108,000 that week. Amazing. I had no idea we were doing this kind of revenue, which is so nice and is proof the sales engine works. The sales engines are working. Like, things are firing. All of that is happening. So amazing to see. And I do like to have that level of detachment, because what I've been focused on is being creative, creating content, putting things out there, filming and recording things that feel exciting to me. And I don't want to then be like constantly checking all the numbers. Is this working? Did people like it? Did it resonate? Like, no, I'm going to keep doing what I like to do and create the content that I think will really support people. And then checking in on that feels really fun now that I've done it. But again, this is coming off the back of many years in business, and we've laid the foundation for many years, but that feels really fun. So what we have done this year is toward the end of last year, we opened up the CEO Mama membership. And that all fully opened at the beginning of this year. And that's been incredible. We brought in our founding members who have really just set the tone for the most amazing community. I mean, the people we have in there, you guys, celebrities. Like, it is really incredible. I just got a message from one of our team this morning saying, did you know such and such was in there? I was like, I didn't, but that also checks out, because CEO Mama attracts the best people. So yeah, we have really, really amazing women at all different stages of business, some just in the early stages, some really established, at all the different stages of motherhood. Some are pregnant right now, some have multiple kids. So every different stage, that's been really, really fun. Society is really just, I mean, firing on all cylinders. We've been doing such amazing masterclasses and training in that. I feel really proud there. We completed delivering Traffic Accelerator, which I think at some point we will probably bring out as an evergreen product for people to tap into, because I know there was a lot of people that didn't see us promoting that and were absolutely gutted. So we'll do that. And that's really been the big focus for us, is just delivering on the stuff that we've already got out there. And that's been fun. I think that's where we all excel as a team, is being able to create resources that we know that our audience absolutely loves. So we did that. CEO Mama Retreat, obviously, as we've talked about. We've got an FFT launch coming up in the next couple of months. But things are feeling really, really good. It's like, yeah, the freedom-based business is freaking possible. I know we talk about it, but when you get your sales engine working, it brings a level of, yes, freedom, but a level of creative fulfillment where you can get back to doing stuff that you really love. Last year for me, that was keynoting and learning how to speak. And this year it's going to be more content creation on social, YouTube, that kind of thing. So it's been a fun start to the year, I feel like.
Yeah, it has. And I love that our team is also feeling it. And I know not everybody has a team our size, but we only have 10 people, which feels small for the size of business that we have. And one of them reached out recently and was like, after like how fast the pace was last fall and like how much was on my plate, I'm feeling like when my days are just normally full, like maybe I'm not contributing enough. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, like we had a sprint season and now we get to be in kind of this more steady season. And
wait, give me a clue. Who said that? Because I feel like
Tracy said that.
It's so funny because I feel like everyone on the team contributes like 20 out of 10.
No, I know they do. That's what I was saying. I was like, no, man, like, and we don't always have to be in a sprint season. And I think that's such a good message for it. There's the external reflection and the numbers and like the results of the programs and all that. And then there's the people that work with you every day and how you and your own nervous system feel. And her and I like had a laugh about it because I was like, yeah, when we did all the funnel reviews in the fall and then we had all the holidays, it just felt like the time flew. And we did have a lot. We got so much done in the last 2 months of the year and we had all the holidays in there. We ended, with the biggest year we've ever had, all of that. And then so to come into January and have the pace just feel like steady, I think for those of us that we love to work, it's like, oh, this feels, dare I say, easy. And I said that to you the other day where I was like, actually, like I don't, knock on wood, but it feels like really easy to manage this business right now. Our team is amazing. They're cranking along. They all are in their lanes, doing their work so well and loving it and showing up for each other and our clients. And all of that is a result of a lot of tumultuous time last year of really refining processes and getting the right people on the bus, so to speak. And so, all of it is to say, like, now we're in the season where it can just be steady state and the business, we're not attached to beating last year's number. We probably will, but we're not like driving hard. Probably, but we're not driving hard to that. And I think, what I love about being part of this team and being part of Boss Babe is I think a lot of times from the outside, it's easy to think, and we'll get into this, like some of the myths, but I think it's like easy to think that we go hard with this big team all the time and that's how we're able to do what we do. And really it's discipline. It's the complete opposite of that. It's like the discipline to not chase every possible thing, not burn, especially you out, but and the team out, and to trust that building really, really good products that have incredible results and then refining those and doubling down, like it's so much better for your audience to see consistency and to get results and for you to sell consistency and results than to just put out the next shiny object thing every single year, trying to get the people's attention over and over and over. So I think we've mastered that. And I'm loving the team, like feeling like the pace is really steady right now. And the momentum has picked up. I mean, I feel like maybe just culturally, January got off to kind of a funky start and February is feeling a little bit more settled. It's getting lighter out, like just all the nervous system things too, where I feel myself starting to be like, okay, it's not so dark and so cold all the time. It makes me as a human more energized and like more in my own momentum and my own rhythms too.
Yeah. And I really think too, when you are managing team, manage them how you like to work too. Like we don't like to be flat out exhausted, stretched, always got so much on our plate. And so you have to give your team breathing space. Like we all need space. Like just because someone works a full-time job doesn't mean they need to be flat out full-time all the time. It's like, I think people work best in seasons. Like our creative energy comes in seasons. We all work better in seasons. So when we can pull back and then lean in and pull back and lean in, that feels really good. And I really love that we did that and we took 2 weeks fully off over the holidays. Felt really good. And coming back into January, it's not being like, let's get it. It's just like, okay, let's see what's unfolding. That feels really exciting.
Yeah. So I want to like help people. I think the best way we help people always is by showing what we do and then also translating it into tactics and strategies that you can apply. And I think creating momentum is one of these things that I think it happens in the mindset world. Like we talk about momentum in the mindset world, and like getting into that flow feeling in your personal life or in your mindset, but in a business, it's possible. And like I think that's the state that a lot of people are wanting to get to. And that's really freedom. Is it's not that the business doesn't need you and it's passive. We've talked about that a lot. Like there's no such thing as that, but there is this like freedom feeling in a business where things can flow with their own momentum, and you don't have to drive every single thing every single day happening in your business. And I think that's where we're at now. And that's what we teach in a lot of our programs and support in a lot of our programs is how do you build all these foundational steps? And then how do you put the energy into the system as the founder, or as the CEO, or as the solopreneur? You push the energy into the system and then the system works. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions or myths maybe around how you get that going, or that if that's possible. And, you know, we talk about a lot of these things, why you need one offer and one funnel, like why you need personal rhythms, why you need energy management and some nervous system support and resilience. And so maybe we can get into that a little bit around some of the myths or like misconceptions or tips and tricks we have on some of those things to get momentum flowing in your business so that it feels like a freedom-based business. When we talk to people who have figured this out, it's like, it feels like freedom now. I still work in it, but it feels good to be here. Like it feels like the business, once I push it in, like push the content in, or I push the decision into the business moves. That's like, that feeling is what I think we're all after.
So where I want to start is people will say they have a sales problem. I just want to say you do not have a sales problem. Let's really get clear on that. What you have is a traffic problem, or you have a conversion problem. Sales is the thing that happens at the very, very end of both of those things. Sales is like the last step beyond, when you're going to deliver on it. So when people say they have a sales problem, it's kind of like you're talking about the finish line when you're still running the marathon, right? And so we have to look at two different things. We have to look at, do you have high quality, consistent traffic? And do you have a funnel that is really converting? Like those are the two main things, obviously based upon an offer that actually has market demand, you can deliver world class, it ticks all the boxes. That's really, really important. And it feels like when a lot of people talk about momentum, what they're really struggling with is, I have a sales problem. It just feels like the money comes in, it's up and down, it's ad hoc. I never really know if I'm coming or going. I have no idea what I'm going to make this month, never mind next month. But if we just talk about sales, we're missing every step that comes before that. And I even talk about that too when we talk about launches. A lot of people will say, what can I do to make my launch really successful? My cart opens in 2 days. Like, what can I really do? And I always say, if you're thinking about it and it opens in 2 days, you've already lost. The success of your launch is determined by the success of your pre-launch. And it's that simple. And so with your pre-launch, it's all about, how can I get leads that are really, really qualified for the thing that I'm about to launch? How can I really have those people ready and excited? Now, if you have this huge engaged audience, you might just need to drop a product and that day it sells like hotcakes. But for most people, we have to really focus on the pre-launch, the excitement, the build-up, warming up and nurturing our current audience. Or if we don't have a current audience, how are we bringing in those leads? How are we building that pre-launch list ready for launching? And then when it comes to launching, it's like, hey, if you show up and do your job and you really can demonstrate why your product is the product and you can convert, then you'll have a successful launch. But when we talk about momentum, it's a lot of the time is the hidden stuff behind all of it. And like, I'm probably going to mess this up because I'm not a runner in any sense of the word, but let's say you plan to run a marathon, right? I'll never do that. I have zero desire to run a marathon. But if you plan to run a marathon and you're just constantly thinking about the finish line, I mean, you're just jumping ahead. Like, it starts with the couch to 5K, like you're getting up, you're getting moving, you're actually training your body to be able to have that endurance, that stamina. It's the same thing in a business. The finish line, like the shiny stuff that we all see online, that momentum that it feels like people really have, it's all that hidden stuff that starts way before then.
Yeah. What's interesting as you're talking, I'm like, this is such a mirror into the last like couple weeks and months in our business because we have a launch coming up. And this is exactly what we've been doing behind the scenes is the pre-launch. And just a little insight into what you said that I think is valuable is how we think about pre-launch and like there's tactic to this, and then there's like the energetics of it. And I'm more of I don't have the strong of a background in the tactics of a launch, right? You're excellent at that. Ellen, our CRO, is excellent at that. But I can come in with the energetics, and it's like, for me, what I think about when we're in pre-launch and getting ahead on, getting off the couch and into the 5K to keep with the analogy. I have run a marathon and it was horrible. Bucket list done. But it's keeping with that analogy. It's like, how do you make your person aware of the problem that the launch is going to solve for them? And a lot of people have varying like paths that they've come down to the problem. And they're all standing in the same place going, I have this problem. And so what I like to think about is like, what are all the entry points to the problem that this person has come down to come to this point where they're like, okay, I have a problem. And for us, with our program is about funnels. And so it's all these questions of, okay, I have this problem. My problem is I don't have a funnel. Ultimately, that's the problem. And so when we look at pre-launch, it's like, what are all the things we could be doing that add value to this person right now to help them that start to give them the building blocks to help them understand the problem they have. We'll give the solution when we actually launch the product. Like the product is the solution. We'll start to talk more about the solution as they come through our pre-launch sequence and we nurture them. And then we get to the webinars and the launch. That's where they learn about the solution. But there's a lot of opportunity for all of us in life and in our businesses to help people become more aware of the problems that they have. And I know that like it sounds kind of funny and maybe a little negative, but that's how people grow. They have to first become aware that they have a problem. And I think that's where a lot of these misconceptions and objections and things come in where they're like, oh, I don't need a funnel in my business, or what even is a funnel, or my business is this kind of business. It won't work for me, and so the way we think about it is, okay, what are all these different objections somebody might have to realizing or admitting they have the problem? And then what tools do we already have, or what could we talk about that helps overcome that objection just now in problem awareness so that they become interested, and then we can start talking to them more about the solution. So that's like, as you were talking, like that's kind of the unlock behind exactly how we do that and how we think about it. I think that's a playbook you can run in any kind of business to think of like, okay, what's the problem that my client needs to be aware of to even be interested in the solution I sell? Because I think that's where a lot of people, they're trying to sign up for a marathon and they're not off the couch yet because they don't even know how to draw awareness to the problem that their person has. And I just think like I've learned a lot about doing that. And I watch our team go through those thought cycles and brainstorming cycles of like, how do we make this even more compelling? How do we make it even more valuable? And really dig in on helping people understand the problem before you try to sell something to them.
I really agree. And the sale happens way, way, way before you ever ask for it. Like really, by the time you ask for the sale, you pitch your offer, you put something in front of people, ideally they've already made up their mind, so it's an easy yes. And the way that you do that is building that, problem awareness, is by suggesting there might be a solution, is by building your brand, the know, the like, the trust factor. Because at the end of the day, if people really can't trust you, they're not going to buy from you. And so that kind of nurturing is absolutely essential. And I feel like when that step is skipped, that's where the problems arise. Now, I'm not saying that whole step needs to take months. It doesn't. Like that's something that we teach in FFT. If you have a really solid offer, you build a funnel, and maybe someone enters in that funnel and they buy 48 hours later. It can be that quick. I mean, the funnel we've got running on ads right now that is crushing, it's the minute they click, they are buying. Like it's very, very fast. We're recouping the ad spend instantly. But we have a really good offer. The funnel is short, it's concise, but it's really potent. It's really effective. And then we have a really high quality traffic source that is very consistent. We make sales every few minutes because our traffic source is turned on and is flowing into a funnel that really converts. And I think we talk about a lot of this stuff kind of like we sound like broken records sometimes. We say a lot of the same thing over and over, because I hate to see entrepreneurs struggle with this when it actually is a simple solve. And I know it, listen, of course, everything sounds more simple just to say it. But as an entrepreneur, if you're really struggling with sales, if you really take everything else off your plate, everything, and you just think about, okay, offer. Is it the right offer? Like, is it irresistible? In fact, let's link below the irresistible offer workbook we have. It's free. You guys go through. If you're listening to this, you're like, well, how do I know if my offer is like going to sell? We'll link that workbook. It's free. But first, look at that. Look at, is this offer something that people want? Is it priced appropriately? Am I actually communicating what it does effectively? Is the branding around it effective? Like, is it ticking all the boxes? Cool. If that's the foundation laid, then we've got two things to do: build a highly converting funnel and turn on a traffic source. There are so many traffic sources available. You turn it on. And also, you're not starting from scratch. There's already so many funnels out there that are built the exact way that you need to build it, doing the exact thing that you need to do. And so success is leaving clues. And so if you are listening to this and you're like, oh, I'm sick of hearing you talk about it and it just doesn't work for me, then my invitation is go and take a look around at people who are doing this successfully in your space, who are getting the results that you really want to get, because success does leave clues, and it might give you a bit of optimism that actually it's just one of three things that's an issue for you right now.
Yeah. I think of like, we've had some conversations recently with people in different of our programs where that was what they were saying. Like, it just doesn't work. I've tried everything. I've tweaked every aspect of my funnel. I've done everything I possibly could, and it's just not working. And sometimes it is like, I think I said to one of them, I'm like, I feel like you're just a millimeter, you're standing in front of a wall and you're like an inch away. And so in your mind, the wall continues on forever and both infinite in both directions because you're so close to it. I feel like today's the day that you take a big step back from the wall and you realize that it's a door and you can just go through it and walk around it, leave it behind. And the offer that you're saying doesn't work is actually this thing that's right on the other side of the door. That's what people have been asking you for, that you love to do, that you know, and so I do think sometimes too with offer especially, and I do feel like we say this a lot, but I think people, they get hung up on, this is what I want to sell. Like this should work. This is what people should want from me. And I love you guys, but sometimes what we want to sell or the way that we've structured it or phrased it is not what people want from us, and it's not going to work. And there's this kind of like tough love look in the mirror moment that we need to have around our offers and go, okay, is it that I haven't tried? I haven't actually gone and gotten the traffic. I haven't tried to put my offer out there. Like I'm actually procrastinating or hesitating on putting it out there. Okay, that's what I need to do. But if you're telling us I have done that, Lindsay, Natalie, like I have tried to put my offer out there and it's crickets, then the answer may be, hey, it's not the right offer. Or you might have a certain skill set you want to teach, but this isn't the package to put it in. Maybe they don't want it as a course. They want it as coaching, or they don't want it as a one-on-one they want it as a group program. You know, like I think offer is one of these things in this bigger conversation around getting to a point where your business feels like freedom. You have to be mutable around the form your offer takes. And I break offer even down further into like the freebie we just mentioned, we'll do this, but into like, what's the transformation that you want your person to have? And as long as that's what they're going to get, your offer could come in so many different shapes and sizes, right? And so if you're willing to take a step back and go, this is the transformation I want to create, it could happen in any of these 3 or 4 different ways. Let me get more honest with myself, not only about what I want to deliver, but also about what people will actually buy in this economy, in this year, for this level of knowledge that I'm offering and that I'm willing to, that I'll show up for. I think that's the other part of the offer equation, is making sure it's something that you actually, once you sell it, you actually will and want to deliver it. We could talk about that too. Like, oh no, I boss babe too hard and now I have to deliver everything I sold. So many people get hung up on like, I don't know what the right offer is, or I want to sell this thing, but nobody's buying it. Or I have so many offers that now I'm just burned out because I have to do what you just said, Natalie, but I have to do it for 5 different offers, and I think a lot of building momentum and building freedom comes down to nailing one thing well, building one thing that you can sell, finish one race, and then figure out if that's repeatable in another form, or if you double down on that one thing, and I think Boss Babe, we've done both of those things really well. We've we've had society for what, 7 or 8 years now. So it's like we've got one winner that we keep just doubling down on and making better. And we've added complementary products when it's made sense to take our audience to the next level from what society teaches. And we've retired some of those products because the economy shifted or because people's needs shifted from what the base level education was about in society. And so offers can change. You grow as a human, but you do have to have this flexibility, I think, in order to find the sweet spot with an offer that creates momentum in a business where it's got to be the right offer for you, the client, and the economy at the time. And that means it has to kind of grow and shift and change as time goes.
Yeah, and even when you're saying it, it's like the same for e-com. We see it with Glossy. Whatever it is that you're selling, like it's really these same principles. But it's also interesting just listening to all of this and talking about simplifying and all of that, because I was putting together a keynote a few weeks ago, and a lot of the time I'm talking about freedom, I'm talking about simplicity, all of that stuff. And to kind of highlight that I'd tried other things, I was thinking about what was a time in my business where I felt like I had so many offers, so many things, so stretched thin. Because by the way, whatever I'm talking about, it's probably because I've like had experience in the opposite. So I remember a time where there was just chaos in the business. There was so many products, so many funnels, like revenue coming from every single source you can possibly imagine. And I was thinking about, okay, what was my belief in getting to that place? And it's really interesting because I remember distinctly where a lot of those product ideas came from. And I was sitting at dinner with a friend of mine who I respect so much, a billion-dollar entrepreneur. And I said to them, I was like, hey, if you were running my business and you were like, okay, I'm going to 10x it, what would you do? And he was like, I'd create a new product every single month and I would scale the shit out of it. And I was like, okay, so that's what I did. And what's really interesting is I never stopped to think, does this person have the life I want to have? Mm-hmm. I never stopped to think, why am I interested in 10xing, and what role do I want my business to play in my life? I didn't ask those bigger questions. I was just so focused on that growth and doubling down and all of that stuff that I went ahead and did it. And was it successful? Yeah, but I created a business that I just didn't love, and it felt really chaotic and it went against all of my values. And so when you're listening to any of this, I want to encourage you to think about that through your own business lens and the role in which you want your business to play in your life. Because you can go and do all the things. You can do the opposite of this and be like so prolific with everything that you launch and double down and scaling and like all of the craziness as fast as you want, but just do it with some awareness of what that might mean and what that might look like. And even as you listen to us, maybe you're like, actually, I don't want a business that looks anything like yours. And so maybe our advice isn't relevant to you. But I was realizing for me in that moment, I fully give my power away, because I fully give my power. Just because someone is a billionaire, does that mean that they know my business and my desires and my values better than me? No. And just for the person listening, like, you know your business better than anyone. You know your ideal clients better than anyone. It's really important to trust that. And then, yeah, listen. And if you're intrigued, cool, maybe there's some things you try, maybe there's some things you don't. But we're surrounded by so much information. We're surrounded by so many ideas. We're surrounded by so much. I think we do have to just be super discerning about what we're listening to. And then for us, that our message is going to be simplicity. It is that, but it, again, isn't for everyone.
Yeah, I know. And I think it's like human nature to just want to complicate things, or I hear so much about like rumblings about this in the nervous system world of like, why are we so biased towards complexity and chaos, and why is ease so uncomfortable, and like, why are we so ready to take advice that makes things harder when our gut is saying, or wherever your energy center is in your body is saying, like, no, Natalie, like, this is not, it's not the life you want, like, you don't want to be on the hustle hamster wheel every month. And I think part of it is cultural. Like, we live in a world that glorifies and gratifies the always growing, like, and growth. And by growing, I mean always making more money, right? Like going bigger, having more. That's the thing that signals success externally for most of us in our culture. And so I think a lot of us come by it naturally where we're like, let's add complexity. Let's do more offers. Let's try to be everything to everybody. And simplicity sounds almost scary or unsafe because it's like, well, if I only have one thing or it's really a simple business, my earning potential is lower and therefore XYZ might not work. XYZ bad thing could happen to me. I won't make enough money, whatever. And I always like that as an inquiry point anytime we're talking about simplicity in general, no matter what type of business you have or what level of success you've already had, because there's very complex and difficult $1 million businesses. There's very complex and difficult $10 million businesses. There's very complex and difficult $1 billion businesses. And there's also very easy, very simple one person, $100,000, $1 million, $10 million businesses. Like we know people that run multi-million dollar businesses with just them and maybe one assistant type person. And it's one offer and it's very easy and it's not glorified because they don't advertise it on social media, but I think we're always going to find evidence for what we're looking for when it comes to our bias towards complexity or simplicity. And I just feel like where we're at right now as humans, the more we can do to simplify the business side and make it feel easier to operate and energetically more open for us as humans to come into, the easier it's going to be the content creator, to be the leader, to be the provider of the services, like to be the human that has to execute on whatever aspect of the business still really needs you, the human, to put your energy into it. And, we've talked a lot about AI and that's a whole other conversation, but it's what I'm getting at is like simplicity is going to get easier and easier, I think, because there's going to be more and more tools, external tools that you can kind of delegate a lot of this stuff to. And it also could be easier to get more complex because of tools that make it easier. Like you've got your AI agent running 5 of your programs and all your Facebook ads and 17 Instagram accounts. And, in theory, that feels easy, but energetically, it's a lot to think about all the time. And so I guess overall, what I'm waxing on about is like, how do you, when you feel yourself in these moments in your business where you're really craving the flow and the ease and the momentum, it's a good moment to look and inquire and go, where have I added complexity? Where do I wish it was just more simple to do what I want to do? Who do I know that does it in a way that seems to be simple? And what could I learn from them? What am I afraid of if I make things easier or I reduce complexity? I think there's all these inquiry points that are really, really interesting when you're looking at what you're selling and what you said, the sales isn't the problem. It's traffic and conversion. What are you afraid of around those two things? And I think that also opens this whole other conversation that I'm interested in, which is around like, we're at this interesting tipping point online and social media where I think there's this massive opportunity if you want to be a creator and you want to be a storyteller and you're willing to show up as yourself, no matter what kind of business you have, to tell stories as a human and have the brand tell a story. But I know some of us don't want to, we don't want to tell our story. We don't want to be public figures. We don't want to be known. And I think that's another big question for a lot of us right now is like, I don't want to show my face online. Can I still have a business that is easy and simple and has momentum and has freedom? Is that possible right now? I don't know if the answer to that question or how I feel about that question. I know I'm very curious about being a creator and, we're studying that a lot internally right now. And I'm seeing more storytelling and more authenticity than I've ever seen. And also social media has never been more of a minefield in terms of like how much it can burn your nervous system out or like be divisive. And so that's a big question too, I think right now is like, can you get momentum? Can you find this flow in your business and not show up online to drive traffic as the leader, CEO, founder, whatever of the business?
Yeah, I mean, 100% you can. The thing is, being a personal brand, that's a traffic source. And there's so many different traffic sources out there. There's so many ways to make business work for you. And I think you're right. It's those kinds of questions, and people need to get honest with themselves about their desires. Like I was thinking about the famous quote, I can't remember who said it, but it's the answer you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. That's what I come back to when we ask a lot of these questions, because I will get people saying, oh, I'm not growing on social media. And then we dig into it and they're barely even showing up on social media. So it's like, well, yeah, no surprise. Or, sales just aren't working, but they're absolutely terrified of selling. Or I want to build a business, but I don't want to show my face. But then they haven't done the work to figure out what it might look like to have a business without their face. It's like, we have to be really clear on what we want, but specifically And often most important, what we do not want. Like I talked about anti-goals. Like, okay, we've all got goals, but what are your anti-goals? Like, what do you not want? We have to also be really, really clear on that so you can build something that you really love. And I am the biggest believer that you can build a business in any way, shape, or form that you want to build it. If you want face or no face, if you want to be a creator or no creator, you can build a business in a way that really, really works for you. But you have to be willing to ask those hard questions and really dig into what it is that you want and don't want. And a lot of time, I think one of the things that holds us back from answering that question honestly is believing that the thing we want is impossible in the way that we want it. And so we'll say, oh, I mean, truth be told, it's this thing, but I'm not going to say that because I know it's not possible. Or, well, my secret desire is actually this, but like it's not realistic, right? There's a lot of that actually holds us back. But I don't know about you, but I don't give a fuck about living a realistic life. I'd rather live my life in a way that I want to live it. And so those desires have to stop being secret and they have to become really conscious that we can claim the thing that we want. And it's also funny because as we're talking about like this world of more and like all of what you see online, like, yeah, we're part of the problem. We're talking about having our biggest year ever. We talk about all of the moreness, but I hope that we can do it in a way that really grounds you of like, you can do it in a way that really, really works for you. And none of this is ever the absence of hard work. Like this is not the place if you want to do it without hard work. Like it's always going to take hard work. But you can work on the things that you want to work on. You can do the things you want to do. But you got to, like you were saying, you've got to get clear on it and you've got to be willing to answer those really hard questions.
Yeah. Well, and I always think, specifically like the meta example of us, it's like you were clear on maybe not specifically manifesting like exactly what Boss Babe is, but like you were clear on what you wanted to build from a decade ago. And you found your way to here, and there's been lots and lots and lots of trials and tribulations. We have 400 episodes you could go listen to. And so to get to the level we're at right now is the result of 20, 15 years of work that nobody's really seen, or everything we've talked about this whole entire hour. You've done all those steps. I've done those for my own businesses, and like we talk about this stuff behind the scenes so much, and it's very alive and very real because yeah, we have a multi 7-figure business and overall Boss Babe's done well over 30 million at this point total. But
yeah, I think 34 coming up.
Yeah, but it could have been like, it also could have been a $50 million business by now had you chosen other paths. It could have been a $10 million business by now had you chosen other paths. So it's like a certain moment in time isn't necessarily representative of anything in any business because it could always go a different way. And we know so many people, God, I could name 10 of them right now that are well-known names that we personally know that we've heard the story of their business where it's like one decision totally changed their trajectory, either way down or way up intentionally, because that's what they wanted to do in that time. That was what their desire was. And so there's always the gut check for people on, realism versus consciously creating your dream and going as big as you want to go. And also like doing that in a way that's very authentic and very like self-generated versus comparing it, pulling that motivation from comparing to someone else's results. Because I don't know, being inside of Boss Babe the last couple of years has that's been the most educational thing coming out of like 15 years of entrepreneurship ahead before that, of going like, wow, you never really know what's going on behind closed doors. And there's so many brands, people like us, but also big brands where you're like, oh, I always thought like that. I always really idolized how they do it. They made it look so easy or they made it look really, really hard or whatever it was. And then you learn the truth. You come inside that business, you meet the people that work there and you're like, oh, wow, I had a totally wrong conception. And so it's like, you want to be that for yourself. If you're running your own business to go, what would people coming in to coach me ask? Like, what would someone's misconception about me be in this stage of life? Like, if someone asked me what my dream state for this business was, what would I say truthfully? Not this like conjecture I've made in my mind of what makes me worthy enough or whatever. So I don't exactly know what my point there was, other than when you see big results or you see small results from someone, it doesn't necessarily mean that they burned themselves out or they failed at something, or that it happened easily overnight. A lot of times it's been someone's intention for many, many, many years to get to the point that they are now. And what you see now is the result of 10 years of working in silence, making hard decisions, and doing everything we've already talked about, getting really disciplined about offers and traffic and distractions and focus and mindset and self-management so that they can show up in flow, in ease, and not sabotage it. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And listen, we're always going to share like the practical and tactical stuff on this podcast, but I hope we can always ground it in your own desire of what you want to build as an entrepreneur. Because at the end of the day, this is your life, this is your business. None of us know any of this better than you do. And so maybe those are the questions you're going to sit with, and like giving yourself the permission to just fully embrace what your desire is, even if it feels really unrealistic, or even if you feel like you're miles away, and reverse engineer it from that. Maybe use ChatGPT as your coach. Yeah, and let us know too. I know you can do it in Spotify. I don't know if there's another place that's easier, but like comments on this episode of this part I want to hear a little bit more on, or this I like double down on this, do an episode on this. We read every single comment. We're really interested, because I know we jumped around a lot here, but we are going to be talking about your sales engine and the foundations of your business and strategy and all of that a lot over the coming weeks. We're going to create a lot of content around that. So I want to make sure that it really speaks to you as well. So yeah, leave us a comment wherever you do listen. We'll read it. Maybe you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. I would love to just really understand, how can we help you more? What are the points that we didn't explain well enough, or you want us to say more about? Because we're really open books here. Like, we will share whatever it is that's going to help you on the journey, because I think that's the best way to learn sometimes. So just comment, just let us know.
Yes. Happy to help. Love it.
Well, this was fun.
Yeah. I love these episodes where it's part teaching and part like inner work. I think, I mean, we say it a lot, and I saw a sign recently at a coffee shop, and I was like, thank you for the reminder. And it was like, running your own business is the best personal growth opportunity that you could ever have. Like, entrepreneurship is inner work. And I think a lot of what we talk about today, and knowing where you're hung up and knowing what questions you need to ask, starts with going inward and going, what is freedom and flow to me? What is the thing that's most important? What transformation do I want to create for people? And how do I want my daily rhythm to go? Like, and not editing yourself as you do that by saying, oh, that's not possible for me. That's impossible. That couldn't happen. Like, being really optimistic and very open to all of it being available to you. And then, bring those questions. Once you've done that brainstorming and that like inquiry, bring those questions. We love to hear those, because that's where we're like, okay, yeah, that's a big goal. Let's get it. And then there's tools and strategies and stuff that we can help with from there.
I love it. Well, this was fun as always. We'll see you guys next week.